Rain pounded the streets of Los Angeles that autumn afternoon, as if the heavens themselves shared Jennifer Martinez's pain. Droplets slid down her face, mixing with tears she could no longer contain. 15 years of loyal service at the Vance estate had ended with a simple phrase, "We no longer require your services." Sometimes, Jennifer thought, life takes everything from us just when we believe we have some certainty. At 52, her work-worn hands clutched a plastic bag containing her few belongings. Without an umbrella, without dignity, and with a heart as heavy as the grey sky above her, she walked aimlessly along the sidewalk of that exclusive Beverly Hills neighborhood where she had never truly belonged. The soft purr of an engine approached slowly before stopping beside her. A black Tesla, imposing as a panther in the night, halted next to her. The tinted window descended with an almost imperceptible hum, revealing the face of a man Jennifer had only seen in business magazines that Mrs. Vance occasionally left lying around. "Need some help?" asked Michael Thompson in a deep voice, owner of the most prestigious hotel empire in California. Jennifer hesitated. All her life she had learned to solve her problems alone, to depend on no one, much less someone like him, belonging to a world she had only access to serve. But the rain was intensifying. Her home was more than an hour away by public transport, and something in those dark eyes conveyed a sense of security she couldn't explain. Life rarely gives us what we expect, Jennifer thought, but perhaps it delivers exactly what we need at the precise moment we need it. "Thank you," she finally responded, not imagining that those simple words would open the door to a story that would change her destiny forever. Jennifer Martinez had never been a woman who inspired pity. At 52, her face reflected the dignity of someone who had faced life with unwavering determination. Her honey-colored eyes, framed by fine wrinkles evidencing both smiles and worries, maintained a sparkle of intelligence and vitality that contrasted with her current situation. "Where can I take you?" asked Michael, observing her with curiosity while his chauffeur drove in silence. "East LA, please," she replied, conscious of the distance between that working-class neighborhood and the exclusive Beverly Hills area where she had just been dismissed. The vehicle's interior smelled of fine leather and a subtle, masculine cologne that Jennifer identified as one of those that cost more than her monthly salary. She sat upright, hands on the plastic bag, refusing to sink into the comfort of that seat that seemed to want to embrace her. "Forgive my boldness, but it seems you haven't had a good day," Michael commented, in a tone that wasn't pity but genuine interest. Jennifer hesitated a moment. She wasn't one to share her problems, especially with strangers, but something in this man's direct gaze invited honesty. "I've been let go after 15 years. No warning, no real reason. Just, they don't need me anymore," she explained with a voice that remained firm, despite the knot in her throat. Michael nodded slowly. "What was your position, if I may ask?" "I was head housekeeper at the Vance estate." A flash of recognition crossed Michael's eyes. "Richard Vance, the developer?" Jennifer nodded. "I know the property. I bought it 2 weeks ago to convert it into a cultural foundation. Richard mentioned the staff would be relocated." His voice faded as a shadow of understanding crossed his face. Jennifer straightened even more. "It seems relocate was a euphemism for some of us." The silence that followed was interrupted only by the soft sound of rain against the windows and the rhythmic movement of the wipers. Jennifer observed her benefactor carefully for the first time. Michael Thompson, the hotel magnate, didn't fit the image she had of idle rich men. His hands showed signs of having worked at some point in his life, and although his suit was obviously expensive, he wore it with the naturalness of someone who values quality above ostentation. "I'm 55, Ms. Martinez," Michael said suddenly, as if he had read her thoughts, "and every wrinkle on my hands reminds me of the floors I cleaned and the beds I made in my parents' small inn in Pasadena. I wasn't always who I am now." Jennifer felt something loosen within her. Perhaps it was the recognition of a story not so different from her own, or maybe the fact that this powerful man took the time to justify himself to her. "I have a proposition for you," continued Michael, taking a card from the inside pocket of his jacket. "Tomorrow at 10, if that works for you, at this address." Jennifer took the card with suspicion. "Palms Beverly Hotel, Director of Human Resources," she read aloud. "I need people with experience and dedication. People who understand what excellence in service means," he explained simply. "The rest will depend on the interview, of course." The car stopped in front of the modest building where Jennifer lived with her mother. The rain had subsided, leaving behind that scent of wet earth that had always been comforting to her. "I'm not a charity case, Mr. Thompson," said Jennifer, the card between her fingers and her dignity intact. Michael smiled for the first time, revealing a dimple in his left cheek that gave him a surprisingly youthful air. "The last thing my hotels need is charity, Ms. Martinez. What they need is talent." As Jennifer climbed the stairs to her apartment, with her clothes still damp and the card firmly held in her hand, she realized it wasn't just the job offer that had moved something inside her. It was the recognition, the equal-to-equal gaze she had found in the eyes of this man who, despite his fortune, seemed to have walked paths not so different from her own. "Girl, how can you even think of turning down an opportunity like that?" Gloria Martinez's voice, carrying her 80 years, resonated in the small kitchen of the apartment with the same strength she had employed all her life to raise her only daughter alone. Jennifer stirred the soup with precise movements while observing her mother seated in her favorite armchair by the window. Time had curved her back, but had not managed to bend her spirit or dim the lucidity of her gaze. "I haven't said I'll turn it down, Mom. I'm just saying it's strange. The owner of a luxury hotel chain offering me a job just like that, out of nowhere." Gloria clicked her tongue. "And why not? You're the best at what you do. You always have been." Jennifer smiled at her mother's unwavering support. Since her father abandoned them when she was barely 5, it had been just the two of them against the world. Gloria had worked as a seamstress, performing miracles with fabric scraps and buttons to ensure they never lacked the essentials. From her, Jennifer had learned the dignity of a job well done, the value of constant effort, and the importance of independence. "Do you know who Michael Thompson is, Mom?" asked Jennifer while serving the soup into 2 bowls. "Of course I know who he is. He appears in magazines and on television. A self-made man, they say. Started with a family inn and now has hotels all over the world." Jennifer sat across from her mother, surprised by her knowledge. "And how do you know so much about him?" Gloria smiled mischievously. "Beauty salons are an inexhaustible source of information, daughter. And at my age, one learns to distinguish between gossip and truth." Jennifer thought about the card she had left on her nightstand. Palms Beverly Hotel, a 5-star establishment in the heart of the city, known for its classic elegance and impeccable service. What could she possibly bring to a place like that? "Your problem, Jennifer," continued Gloria while blowing on her hot soup, "is that you refuse to see your own worth. You always have." "It's not that, Mom. I just don't want to get my hopes up. At my age, jobs don't fall from the sky." "Well, this one seems to have fallen right into your lap, soaked by rain and driving a Tesla," replied Gloria with a playful smile. Jennifer couldn't help but laugh. Her mother had always had that ability to brighten even the darkest moments with her peculiar sense of humor. After dinner, while clearing the dishes, Jennifer remembered how she had come to work for the Vances. After years as a hotel maid in various modest establishments, the opportunity to become head housekeeper of a mansion had seemed a significant promotion. The salary was better, the working conditions more stable. For 15 years, she had maintained that house with Swiss clock precision, anticipating the family's needs, managing the rest of the staff, creating an impeccable environment. And when Mrs. Vance fell ill, it was Jennifer who coordinated the medical visits, who prepared the special meals, who watched over her difficult nights, all that to end up on the street with a plastic bag as her only severance. She looked at herself in the small bathroom mirror while brushing her teeth. She wasn't vain, but neither did she deceive herself about her appearance. Her brown hair, now with silver strands she refused to dye, was pulled back in a simple bun. Her face, without makeup, showed the serenity of someone who has learned to accept life's challenges without allowing them to embitter her. "At least I deserve to hear what they have to offer," she murmured to herself. That night, while her mother slept in the adjoining room, Jennifer pulled out an old photo album. There she was at 20, with a small apron and the nervous smile of her first day as a maid at the Metropolitan Hotel, a modest establishment where she had learned the fundamentals of hospitality. In another image, she appeared in the Vance Estate housekeeper uniform, proud and confident. Between the pages, she also found the diploma she had obtained in a night course in hotel management, a secret she had kept to herself. For 3 years, she had studied after work, dreaming perhaps of something more than always being the person who served others. But life, with its daily obligations and caring for her mother, had gradually postponed those dreams until they were almost forgotten. Jennifer closed the album and carefully put it back in the drawer. Tomorrow she would go to that interview, not for Michael Thompson and his penetrating gaze, not out of gratitude for his offer. She would do it for herself, for the 20-year-old who smiled nervously in that first photo, convinced that life had something special reserved for her. The Palms Beverly Hotel stood majestic in downtown Los Angeles, a historic building from the late 19th century, whose neoclassical facade contrasted with the modern skyscrapers that were beginning to define the city's profile. Jennifer paused for a moment before the entrance, admiring the architectural details that had survived the passage of time and the well-tended planters flanking the main door. She had carefully chosen her outfit. A dark grey suit she had bought years ago for special occasions, an impeccably ironed white blouse, and the only pair of heels she owned cleaned to perfection. Her hair, pulled back in a low bun, gave her an air of serene professionalism. "Good morning. I have an appointment with the Director of Human Resources," she informed the concierge, a middle-aged man with an impeccable uniform that reminded her of her own years of service. "Your name, please," he responded with a cordial smile. "Jennifer Martinez." The man consulted his screen and his expression subtly changed. "Ah, yes, Ms. Martinez. They're waiting for you in the main office, not in Human Resources." "Follow me, please." Jennifer frowned, confused, but followed the concierge through the luxurious lobby. The Italian marble floor, the crystal chandeliers, the strategically placed floral arrangements, every detail spoke of elegance and meticulous attention. She, who had spent her working life observing and caring for spaces, could appreciate the level of excellence maintained by the establishment. The concierge led her to a private elevator that required a special key card. "Mr. Thompson will receive you personally," he explained as the doors opened. "Mr. Thompson, I thought I'd be meeting with the Director of Human Resources." The man smiled discreetly. "Sometimes Mr. Thompson gets personally involved in certain hires. I wish you luck, Ms. Martinez." The elevator took her directly to the top floor. When the doors opened, Jennifer found herself in an elegant reception area where a young woman with an efficient appearance greeted her with a smile. "Ms. Martinez, welcome. I'm Sarah, Mr. Thompson's assistant. Please come this way." Jennifer followed her, increasingly intrigued, to a spacious conference room with large windows offering a panoramic view of Los Angeles. Michael Thompson was standing by the window contemplating the city. Upon seeing her enter, he turned with a warm smile. "Ms. Martinez, I'm glad you came," he said, approaching to shake her hand. Jennifer returned the greeting firmly. "I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Thompson, although I must confess I expected a more conventional interview." Michael laughed naturally. "Conventions rarely lead to excellence, don't you think? Please, sit down." Sarah served coffee for both and discreetly withdrew. The room fell silent as Jennifer observed Michael taking a seat across from her. In daylight, she could better appreciate his face. Strong but kind features, black hair with some grey at the temples, dark and penetrating eyes that seemed to evaluate everything with precision. He wore a navy blue suit of impeccable cut, but without ostentation. "I've done some research on you," Michael began, getting straight to the point. 15 years at the Vance Estate, 7 years before that at the Metropolitan Hotel, 3 at the Peninsula. Excellent references in all cases. Jennifer tensed slightly. "You seem to know my work history better than I do myself." "My job is to know the right people for each position," he responded simply, "and I rarely get it wrong." "And what position do you have in mind for me, if I may ask?" Michael leaned back in his chair, observing her with interest. "The Palms Beverly is about to begin an expansion. We'll open a new wing with 50 luxury suites, and we need someone to supervise all the housekeeping and maintenance staff, someone with experience, organizational skills, and a perfectionist eye for details." Jennifer listened attentively, trying to maintain a neutral expression despite her surprise. It wasn't a simple housekeeping position, it was a management role. "Supervisor of maintenance and services," continued Michael, reporting directly to the hotel's assistant manager. "It's a position of responsibility, Ms. Martinez, with a commensurate salary and growth possibilities." Jennifer took a sip of coffee to buy time while ordering her thoughts. Why me? There must be candidates with specific experience in luxury hotels with degrees in hospitality. I have enough framed degrees in this building, interrupted Michael with a smile. What I'm looking for is talent, dedication, and that innate ability to anticipate needs that isn't learned in any school. He paused and added, Besides, I owe you an apology. The purchase of the Vance estate was for a cultural foundation project, but it was never my intention for the employees to lose their jobs. Richard assured me they would be relocated. Jennifer felt a mix of contradictory emotions. On one hand, indignation at confirming she had been deceived by her former employer. On the other, a strange gratitude toward this man who, without any obligation, was trying to remedy an injustice he hadn't even directly committed. I'm not looking for your compassion, Mr. Thompson. And I'm not offering compassion, Ms. Martinez. I'm offering an opportunity, the same one someone once gave me when I needed it most. Their eyes met in a moment of silent understanding. The rest will depend exclusively on your capabilities. Jennifer took a deep breath. At 52, with her responsibilities, her experience, and her knowledge, this opportunity was more than she would have dreamed of. However, one last doubt persisted. And if I don't meet your expectations? Michael smiled, once again showing that dimple that softened his face. I've built an empire trusting my instinct to judge people, Ms. Martinez. And my instinct is rarely wrong. He stood and extended his hand. Shall we start tomorrow at 8? Jennifer stood and shook his hand firmly. At 7:30, she corrected with confidence. I'll need half an hour to familiarize myself with the establishment before the shift begins. Michael's smile widened. 7:30 it is. As the elevator descended toward the lobby, Jennifer felt an emotion she hadn't experienced in a long time, the mixture of fear and enthusiasm that precedes great changes. At 52, when many began thinking about retirement, she was about to cross the threshold of a new beginning, and though she couldn't know it at that moment, that October morning she hadn't just accepted a new job. She had taken the first step on a path that would transform her life in ways she couldn't even imagine. 2 months had passed since Jennifer began working at the Palms Beverly Hotel, and the Los Angeles spring was beginning to announce its arrival, with timid blooms in the parks and a different light bathing the city. During this time, Jennifer had proven that Michael's trust was not misplaced. With a mixture of firmness and empathy, she had completely reorganized the housekeeping and maintenance department. Her years of experience allowed her to detect problems before they arose, and her respectful but demanding approach had quickly earned the respect of the staff under her charge. You've revolutionized this place in record time, commented David Chen, the hotel's assistant manager, as they reviewed the weekly reports together in Jennifer's office, a modest but functional space she had organized with the same efficiency she applied to everything. I've only applied common sense, she responded without false modesty. This hotel was already functioning extraordinarily well. David, a 40-year-old man with evident ambition in his gaze, shook his head. Excellence is in the details, and you've perfected each one of them. Michael was right about you. Jennifer felt an involuntary warmth at the mention of that name. In these 2 months, her interactions with the hotel owner had been scarce but significant. Michael appeared occasionally, always without prior notice, touring the facilities with a critical but fair eye. When he crossed paths with Jennifer, he greeted her with genuine interest in her work, attentively listening to her observations and suggestions. Mr. Thompson has a good eye for talent, Jennifer responded professionally, avoiding showing any particular emotion. David observed her with curiosity. It's interesting, you know. In the 5 years I've been working for him, I've never seen him so involved in a hiring. Jennifer diverted the conversation toward work matters, uncomfortable with the implication. At 52, with a life built on realism and hard work, the last thing she needed were unfounded romantic fantasies. That afternoon, while supervising the preparation of the presidential suites for a diplomatic delegation that would arrive the next day, Jennifer received a message from Sarah, Michael's assistant, requesting her presence in the hotel restaurant at the end of her shift. Intrigued and slightly nervous, Jennifer kept the appointment after ensuring everything was in order in her department. The Palms restaurant, an elegant space with 2 Michelin stars, was closing for external guests, but a table in a discreet corner remained prepared. Michael was waiting for her, dressed in a dark grey suit, that contrasted with his white shirt without a tie, giving him a more relaxed air than usual. He stood when he saw her arrive. "Jennifer, thank you for coming. Please, sit down," he invited with a gesture, using her first name naturally for the first time. "Mr. Thompson," she greeted, still maintaining formality as she took a seat. "Michael, please. Outside work hours, I think we can allow ourselves a little less protocol." The sommelier approached with a bottle of red wine that he showed to Michael. However, he looked at Jennifer. "Would a Napa Valley Cabernet be all right with you, or would you prefer something else?" Jennifer, surprised by the deference, nodded. "The Cabernet is fine, thank you." Once the wine was served and orders taken, they were left alone in that island of intimacy within the nearly empty, spacious restaurant. "I've received excellent reports about your work," Michael began, raising his glass in a silent toast. Jennifer returned the gesture. "I like what I do, and this hotel deserves the best. That attitude is precisely what distinguishes us from the competition." Michael observed her over the rim of his glass. "Passion for excellence can't be faked." They talked about the hotel, about upcoming expansion projects, about Michael's business philosophy. Jennifer surprised herself by gradually relaxing, sharing some of her ideas to further improve services. Michael listened with genuine interest, asking insightful questions that revealed a deep knowledge of the hotel business from its most basic foundations. "I started cleaning rooms at the family inn," he told her, as they enjoyed the main course, a slow-cooked lamb that melted in the mouth. "My father taught me that there's no small job if it's done with dedication. Every well-made bed, every gleaming floor was our calling card." Jennifer smiled, recognizing her own philosophy in those words. "My mother was a seamstress. She always said that the difference between an acceptable job and an exceptional one was in the details that nobody sees, but everyone feels." "A wise woman," commented Michael. "I'd like to meet her someday." The phrase floated between them, laden with implications that neither seemed willing to address directly. "She's 80 years old and has a formed opinion on everything and everyone," Jennifer responded with affection. "Including you." Michael raised his eyebrows, amused. "Should I be worried?" "Not at all. She seems to hold you in high esteem, although I've never told her I work directly for you." "And why not?" Jennifer took a sip of wine before responding. "I suppose I don't want to feed false expectations." "Yours or hers?" The question, direct and penetrating, made Jennifer look up, finding Michael's intense eyes fixed on her. "Both, perhaps," she responded honestly. A comfortable silence settled between them as they finished dessert, a refined reinterpretation of traditional bread pudding that Jennifer sincerely praised. "Next week we celebrate the annual Food and Wine Festival at the hotel," Michael commented when they were served coffee. "International chefs, critics, specialized press, an important event for us." Jennifer nodded. "My team is already preparing the special protocols for the VIP guest suites." "I'd like you to attend the closing gala," said Michael, watching her carefully. "As my personal guest." Jennifer felt her heart skip unexpectedly. This wasn't a professional proposal. It was an invitation that subtly crossed the line between professional and personal. "I don't think that would be appropriate," she responded cautiously. "I'm an employee." "You're much more than that, Jennifer." Michael's voice took on a deeper tone. "You're an extraordinary woman who has brought incalculable value to my hotel in just 2 months. And I'd like others to see you as I see you." Jennifer lowered her gaze to her coffee cup, trying to order her thoughts. At 52, she felt like an insecure teenager, divided between the caution that had always guided her life and a new emotion beginning to bloom within her. "Think about it," suggested Michael without pressuring her. "I don't need an answer now." When they said goodbye in the hotel lobby, Michael took her hand with a warmth that transcended the boundaries of professional courtesy. "Thank you for a delightful evening, Jennifer." "Thank you, Michael," she responded, trying his name for the first time, discovering she liked how it sounded on her lips. That night, as she returned home in the taxi that Michael had insisted on paying for, Jennifer contemplated the lights of Los Angeles with a strange mixture of emotions. The city seemed different, as if during dinner something had changed in the way she perceived the world around her. Sometimes, she thought as the taxi progressed through the night streets, life surprises us just when we believe it has no more surprises reserved for us. The grand ballroom of the Palms Beverly Hotel gleamed under the light of enormous crystal chandeliers, the cream of international gastronomy. Renowned critics, personalities from the business and cultural world, mingled in an atmosphere of refined elegance for the closing gala of the Food and Wine Festival. After days of deliberation, Jennifer had finally accepted Michael's invitation. For the occasion, she had invested in a midnight blue dress, simple but elegant, that enhanced her figure without pretension. Her hair, usually pulled back in a practical bun, now fell in soft waves over her shoulders, revealing the copper highlights that the sun had left in it over the years. "You look beautiful," her mother had told her as she left, and nervous as a schoolgirl. "It's not a date, Mom," Jennifer had responded, though she wasn't convinced of her own words. Now, standing at the entrance to the ballroom, she felt out of place amid so much glamour and opulence. Some faces were familiar from magazines or television, and the thought of having to socialize with them filled her with apprehension. "You made it!" Michael's voice behind her startled her. She turned to find him impeccably dressed in a tuxedo that seemed designed specifically to enhance his athletic figure. "I was considering the possibility of fleeing," Jennifer confessed with a nervous smile. Michael offered her his arm. "Then I've arrived just in time to prevent it." With him by her side, Jennifer felt strangely secure as they advanced among the guests. Michael introduced her naturally to various groups, always highlighting her position in the hotel and her professional achievements with a pride that made her blush. "Jennifer is responsible for our quality standards, having been elevated to levels never before seen at the Palms," he told a prestigious French food critic who approached them with a glass of champagne in hand. "Michael exaggerates," she responded with modesty. "The merit belongs to the team." "Our refreshing humility," commented the critic with an appreciative smile. "Refreshing in these times of constant self-praise." The evening was progressing pleasantly until Jennifer noticed a change in Michael's attitude. His gaze had fixed on the entrance to the ballroom, where a spectacular blonde woman had just made her appearance. Tall, slender, with a red dress that seemed painted on her body, the newcomer immediately captured the attention of all present. "Is something wrong?" asked Jennifer, perceiving the sudden tension. "Amanda," murmured Michael, as if that name explained everything. "My ex-partner. I didn't expect to see her here." Before Jennifer could respond, the woman had made her way through the crowd and was in front of them, emanating an aroma of expensive perfume that seemed to mark her territory. "Michael, darling," she greeted with a melodious voice, kissing him on both cheeks with studied familiarity. "What a wonderful event. As always, you exceed all expectations." Her gaze diverted to Jennifer, evaluating her from head to toe with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Amanda, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Martinez, our supervisor of maintenance and services," Michael presented them with formality. "Delighted," responded Amanda with a tone that suggested exactly the opposite. Michael has always valued his staff. The emphasis on the last word made the insinuation clear. Jennifer, however, had faced too many slights throughout her life to feel intimidated. "Mr. Thompson is an employer who recognizes merit and dedication," she responded with a serene smile, "an increasingly rare value." Amanda narrowed her eyes slightly, surprised by the direct response. Michael, for his part, seemed to suppress a smile. "If you'll excuse me for a moment," said Jennifer with politeness, "I need to check on something with the service staff." She walked away with dignity, aware of Michael's gaze following her. She needed a breather, a moment to order her thoughts and emotions. She headed toward the kitchen, her natural refuge within the hotel, where she always felt in control. The head chef, Luis Rodriguez, greeted her with familiarity while supervising the plating of the evening's last desserts. "Jennifer, what a surprise to see you at the gala, and so elegant." She smiled, grateful for the naturalness with which Luis treated her, without questioning or second intentions. "I needed to escape the commotion for a moment," she confessed. Luis nodded understandingly while adding the final touches to an elaborate dessert. "Social events can be exhausting. I much prefer the organized chaos of my kitchen." Jennifer observed with admiration the precision with which the kitchen team worked, each person at their station, executing their task with professionalism. "Can I help with anything?" she offered, feeling the need to occupy her hands. Luis looked at her in surprise. In that dress? Michael would kill me if I allowed our star guest to end up with chocolate stains. I'm not any star, Jennifer countered. Just an employee who needs to feel useful. The chef studied her for a moment and then smiled. There's a special dish we're preparing for the final toast. Perhaps you could supervise the presentation while I finish the details of the dessert buffet. Jennifer appreciated the distraction and enthusiastically dedicated herself to the assigned task. For almost half an hour, she immersed herself in the meticulous work of reviewing each detail of the presentation, momentarily forgetting the gala, Amanda, and the contradictory emotions that Michael awakened in her. So this is where you've been, Michael's voice surprised her when she was giving the final touches to the arrangement of the glasses for the toast. I've looked for you all over the ballroom. Jennifer straightened up, suddenly aware of how incongruous her behavior must seem. I'm sorry, I needed a moment to be yourself, he completed with an understanding that disarmed her. I perfectly understand. He observed her with a mixture of admiration and something deeper that Jennifer dared not name. How's Amanda? She asked, trying to maintain a neutral tone. Michael made a vague gesture with his hand. The same as always. We've been over for more than a year, but she seems to have difficulty accepting it. She's a very beautiful woman, commented Jennifer, surprising herself with the pang of jealousy she felt upon uttering those words. Superficial beauty loses its charm when there's nothing substantial behind it, responded Michael, looking directly into her eyes. I prefer authenticity, intelligence, the ability to see the real value of things. Jennifer's heart skipped a beat at the intensity of his gaze. For the first time in many years, she allowed herself to feel that emotion she had kept at bay for so long. The hope that perhaps, just maybe, there was still room in her life for something more than work and responsibilities. The toast is about to begin, she finally said, breaking the moment. You should be there, you're the host. Michael nodded, but before they could leave the kitchen, he gently took her hand. Jennifer, there's something I need to tell you. Something important. The seriousness in his voice alarmed her. Is something wrong? No, not at all. It's about us, about what's beginning to emerge between... His words were interrupted by David, the assistant manager, who hurriedly entered the kitchen. Michael, they urgently need you for the toast. And there's a problem with one of the investors. The moment had been broken. Michael let go of her hand with evident frustration. We'll continue this conversation later, he promised, before following David. Jennifer remained in the kitchen a moment longer, her heart beating rapidly and 1,000 questions in her mind. What had he been about to tell her? And why did she, a mature and sensible woman, feel as vulnerable and hopeful as a teenager? When she returned to the ballroom, the evening was in full swing. From a discreet corner, she observed Michael give a brief speech, thank the festival participants, and propose a toast to the event's success. He did so with the naturalness of someone accustomed to leading, but without the ostentation Jennifer had observed in other businessmen of his level. Amanda, she noticed, kept strategically close to him, smiling for the cameras, creating the impression of an intimacy that, according to Michael, no longer existed. For a moment, doubt settled in Jennifer. What could a man like Michael Thompson see in someone like her when he had women like Amanda at his disposal? You shouldn't worry about her. Sarah's voice, Michael's assistant, startled her. The young woman had silently approached with a glass of champagne that she offered to Jennifer. Amanda is ancient history, a rather toxic history, if I may be indiscreet. Jennifer accepted the glass, surprised by the frankness. It's not my business. Sarah smiled conspiratorially. I've never seen Michael look at anyone the way he looks at you. And I've been working for him for 5 years. Before Jennifer could respond, Sarah was already walking away, leaving her with her thoughts and a new perspective on what was happening. Perhaps, she allowed herself to think, she wasn't imagining things. Perhaps, despite all the differences and apparent obstacles, there really was a special connection between them. The gala extended well into the night. When it finally began to disperse, Jennifer looked for Michael to say goodbye. She found him conversing with a group of investors, clearly trapped in business matters. She decided to leave discreetly, but as she headed toward the exit, she felt a hand on her shoulder. You weren't thinking of leaving without saying goodbye, were you? Michael's voice, slightly hoarse after hours of conversation, enveloped her like a caress. I didn't want to interrupt your meeting. Nothing is more important than ensuring you enjoyed the evening, he responded, guiding her toward a quieter corner. Under the dim light of a vintage lamp, Michael's face showed signs of fatigue, but his eyes maintained that special sparkle when they rested on her. "It's been a wonderful night," said Jennifer sincerely. "Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming." He paused, as if searching for the right words. "Jennifer, about what I wanted to tell you before—" The sound of heels approaching rapidly once again interrupted the moment. Amanda appeared, slightly unsteady, with clear signs of having drunk more than her share. "Michael, darling, everyone's wondering where the host is," she said, deliberately ignoring Jennifer. "Besides, we need to talk about that pending matter." Jennifer took a step back. "I should go now. It's late." The frustration was evident on Michael's face, but professionalism prevailed. "At least let me make sure you get home safely. My chauffeur is waiting." "It's not necessary," insisted Jennifer. "I can take a cab." Michael looked at her intensely. "Please." "I insist." Finally, Jennifer accepted. As she said goodbye with a courteous gesture, Amanda stopped her with a smile that boded no good. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Jennifer. Although you shouldn't get your hopes up. Michael has a certain weakness for helping less fortunate people. It's his recurring charity project." Jennifer felt as if she had been slapped, but maintained her composure. "True charity, ma'am, is treating with kindness those who can offer us nothing in return, and in that regard it seems we both have much to learn." Leaving Amanda open-mouthed, Jennifer headed to the exit with her head held high. Her heart raced wildly, divided between the pain of cruel words and a strange sense of triumph for not having let herself be intimidated. In the elegant car that took her back home, Jennifer contemplated the night streets of Los Angeles with a mixture of contradictory emotions. The night had been a whirlwind of revelations, some painful, others hopeful. Perhaps, she thought as the vehicle silently advanced through the sleeping city, second chances come when we least expect them, dressed in forms we would never have imagined. And for the first time in many years, she allowed herself to dream of a future different from what she had always believed destined for her. The days following the gala passed with an apparent normality. Jennifer immersed herself in her work with renewed energy, implementing improvements in service protocols that were immediately recognized by management. However, whenever she crossed paths with Michael in the corridors or staff meetings, she felt an almost electric tension between them, as if that conversation interrupted twice floated in the air, waiting for its moment to materialize. One late spring afternoon, while Jennifer was supervising the renovation of rooms on the noble floor, she received a message from Sarah, urgently summoning her to Michael's office. With her heart slightly accelerated, Jennifer made her way to the top floor. When she entered the office, she was surprised to find not only Michael, but also David and a man she didn't know, with a severe appearance and an impeccable suit. "Jennifer, thank you for coming so quickly," greeted Michael with a formal tone that contrasted with the warmth he usually dedicated to her. "I'd like to introduce you to Robert Williams, my main partner and financial director of the hotel group." Robert examined her with a cold, calculating gaze that immediately made her uncomfortable. "Ms. Martinez, I've heard a lot about you lately." Jennifer nodded politely, intuiting that something wasn't right. "I hope they were positive comments." "Mostly," responded Robert with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "However, some concerns have arisen that we'd like to clarify." Michael intervened, visibly tense. "Robert has been reviewing some operational aspects of the hotel and has questions about the new protocols you've implemented." During the next half hour, Jennifer found herself subjected to a barely disguised interrogation about each of her decisions since assuming her position. Robert questioned her methods, insinuated that her changes had generated unnecessary expenses, and most hurtfully, vaguely suggested that her relationship with Michael had influenced her hiring and subsequent autonomy. "I don't understand how a person without specific academic training in hospitality can make decisions that affect an establishment of the Palms category," commented Robert with apparent innocence. Jennifer, who had maintained her calm until that moment, felt something break inside her. 15 years managing a luxury mansion, 7 years in previous hotels, and 3 years of night studies in hotel administration that she had kept as a personal secret, all questioned by someone who probably had never made a bed or cleaned a bathroom in his life. "Mr. Williams," she responded with a tranquility that contrasted with the inner storm she felt. True understanding of hospitality doesn't come from books, but from direct experience. Each of my changes is documented with clear objectives and measurable results. She stood and went to the room's computer, accessing the management system with her password. With professional efficiency, she showed graphs and statistics demonstrating how her innovations had reduced costs, increased customer satisfaction, and improved staff efficiency. Furthermore, she continued, now addressing everyone but keeping her gaze fixed on Robert, I have a diploma in hotel management from the Los Angeles Community College. 3 years of night studies that I completed while working full-time shifts. Michael looked at her in surprise, but with a flash of admiration in his eyes. You never mentioned that training in your resume. Because a paper shouldn't be necessary to validate 15 years of impeccable experience, responded Jennifer with dignity. The results speak for themselves. Robert, momentarily disarmed by the forcefulness of the data and the revelation, changed tactics. Very impressive, without a doubt. However, I'm concerned about the speed with which you've risen to a position of such responsibility, especially considering your previous situation. The implication was clear. He was questioning not only her capacity, but also Michael's objectivity in hiring her. My previous situation was the result of an injustice that, ironically, Mr. Thompson tried to remedy without having any obligation to do so, responded Jennifer, addressing Robert directly. And if I have this position, it's because I've proven day after day that I deserve it. The tension in the room was palpable. David observed the exchange with evident discomfort, while Michael seemed divided between his role as director and his personal feelings. I believe Ms. Martinez has answered all your concerns, Robert, Michael finally intervened. The results are evident, and the board of directors has already approved her management in the last meeting. Robert stood with a forced smile. Of course, I was just exercising my duty of diligence as the main partner, nothing personal. But as he headed for the door, he added, By the way, how curious to find you here. If I remember correctly, you worked at the Vance estate until a few months ago, right? Jennifer felt a chill run down her spine. That's right. Small world. Richard Vance is an old friend of mine. It was a shame about the staff when he sold the property. The significant look he gave made it clear that he knew more than he appeared to. Jennifer maintained her composure, but inside, the pieces were beginning to fit together. When Robert and David left the office, a tense silence remained between Jennifer and Michael. What was all that about? She finally asked. Michael ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that Jennifer had learned to recognize as a sign of his frustration. Robert is my oldest partner. We started together, but while I focused on service quality and customer experience, he has always prioritized numbers and image. He paused, carefully choosing his next words. And lately he seems concerned about our relationship. Our relationship? Repeated Jennifer, feeling the blush rise in her cheeks. We are boss and employee. Michael looked at her directly with an intensity that made her tremble. Is that all we are, Jennifer? The question hung in the air, charged with unexpressed possibilities and fears. Before Jennifer could respond, her phone rang insistently. It was her home number. Alarmed, she immediately answered. Mum, what's happening? The anguished voice of her neighbor Anna made her pale. Jennifer, your mother has had a fall. The ambulance is taking her to Cedars-Sinai Hospital right now. The world seemed to stop. Jennifer felt like she couldn't breathe. I'm on my way immediately. When she hung up, she found Michael already standing, taking his jacket from the coat rack. I'll take you, he said in a tone that admitted no discussion. It's not necessary, I can take a taxi, began Jennifer, but Michael was already calling his chauffeur. Your mother needs you to get there as soon as possible, and I need to make sure you're okay. The journey to the hospital took place in a tense silence, broken only by the sound of rain that had begun to fall heavily, like an echo of the emotional storm Jennifer felt inside. Michael kept one hand on hers, a simple but deeply comforting gesture in that moment of uncertainty. At the hospital, Jennifer discovered that her mother had suffered a fall while trying to change a light bulb. The diagnosis: hip fracture, a particularly serious injury at her age. She's going to need surgery and afterwards intensive rehabilitation, explained the doctor with a compassionate expression. At her age, recovery will be slow and will require constant care. Jennifer felt the ground opening beneath her feet. Her mother, that strong and independent woman who had always been her rock, would now depend completely on her. How would she balance her work at the hotel with the care Gloria would need? When she left the consultation, she found Michael patiently waiting in the hallway with 2 coffees in his hands. "I thought you might need this," he said, offering her one. "How is she?" Jennifer explained the situation to him, letting the emotions contained during the medical consultation finally surface. To her surprise, Michael enveloped her in a spontaneous embrace, offering his shoulder for her to release the tears she had been holding back. "Everything's going to be all right," he murmured against her hair. "You're not alone in this." When Jennifer finally separated, embarrassed by her moment of weakness, Michael kept his hands on her shoulders. "Listen to me, Jennifer. The Palms has several apartments for executive staff in the building adjacent to the hotel. One of them is unoccupied. I want you and your mother to use it during her recovery." Jennifer looked at him astonished. "I can't accept something like that." "It's not a personal favor," he responded firmly. "It's a practical solution. We need you to continue working at the hotel, and your mother needs to be close to you. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, is fully adapted for people with reduced mobility, and most importantly, it's 5 minutes from your workplace." The offer was perfect, almost too good to be true. Jennifer hesitated, divided between practical need and her unshakable independence. "What will people think? You heard Robert insinuating things about us." Michael frowned. "I couldn't care less what Robert or anyone thinks. This is about doing the right thing." Jennifer looked through the hallway window. The rain continued falling relentlessly on Los Angeles, turning the afternoon into a gray twilight that perfectly reflected her mood. "I can't allow my personal life to affect my work," she finally said. "And I can't allow one of my best employees to wear herself out trying to be in 2 places at once," he countered. "It's a sensible business solution." His gaze softened. "Besides, I couldn't bear to see you suffer when I can offer you an alternative." At that moment, while contemplating her options under the cold light of the hospital, Jennifer understood that she was at a crossroads. Accepting Michael's help meant crossing a line, entering a territory where gratitude, dependence, and the growing feelings she had for him would intertwine in ways she couldn't predict. But the image of her mother, fragile in that hospital bed, outweighed any other consideration. "Okay," she finally yielded, "but it will be temporary, and I'll pay a fair rent." Michael smiled, that dimple appearing again on his cheek. "We'll discuss that later. Now let's focus on ensuring that your mother receives the best possible care." As she watched Michael make calls, mobilizing contacts to ensure that Gloria had access to the best specialists, Jennifer wondered how she had gone from being just another employee to occupying this privileged space in the life of a man like him. And more importantly, she wondered if she was prepared for the consequences that this unexpected storm would bring to her carefully ordered life. A month had passed since Gloria's surgery. Recovery was progressing slowly, but with promising results thanks to constant care and intensive rehabilitation. The apartment in the building adjacent to the Palms Beverly Hotel had become a temporary home that, despite Jennifer's initial reservations, turned out to be an unexpected blessing. "I've never lived in such an elegant place," Gloria commented each morning as she breakfasted on the terrace overlooking the city. "If I had known that breaking a hip was all it took to move up in social class, I would have done it years ago." Jennifer smiled at her mother's unwavering humor. "Don't say such things even as a joke, Mom." The apartment, spacious and completely adapted for Gloria's reduced mobility, was indeed luxurious, but without the ostentation that Jennifer had feared. Michael had furnished it with practical comfort in mind, rather than a display of wealth. The proximity to the hotel allowed Jennifer to balance her demanding work with the care her mother needed. Each morning, before starting her shift, she could supervise the nurse's visit. During her lunch hour, she quickly went up to check how everything was going. And in the evenings, when her shift ended, she didn't have to face a long journey on public transport when fatigue overcame her. "Your boss comes to visit me almost every day when you're working," Gloria informed her one afternoon, with that perceptive look that Jennifer knew too well. "Michael comes to see you?" she asked, surprised. Gloria nodded. "He's a very attentive man. He brings me books. We talk about the old days in Los Angeles. Yesterday he told me how he started in the hotel business with the small family inn in Pasadena." Jennifer felt a mixture of contradictory emotions. On one hand, the warmth of knowing that Michael sincerely cared for her mother. On the other, a slight discomfort at this connection that was being forged without her direct intervention. "And what do you think of him?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Gloria smiled mischievously. "I think he's the first man who looks at you the way you deserve to be looked at since your father abandoned us, and that you're too stubborn to accept it." Jennifer looked away, uncomfortable with the precision of her mother's analysis. In the last few weeks, her relationship with Michael had evolved in subtle but significant ways. They still maintained strict professionalism at the hotel, but there were small moments, gestures almost imperceptible to others, that revealed a growing complicity between them. One night, as she returned to the apartment after a long day of work, Jennifer encountered Michael in the private elevator. She had been avoiding being alone with him for days, fearful of the pending conversation that had been floating between them since the gala. "How's Gloria?" he asked with genuine interest. "Improving each day," responded Jennifer. "Thanks to you." Michael shook his head. "Thanks to her strength and your care. I just provided a space." The elevator stopped between 2 floors. The lights flickered and finally stabilized in the emergency lighting. "Seems we have a small technical problem," commented Michael calmly, pressing the alarm button. "The maintenance team won't take long to fix it." They remained in silence, suddenly aware of the forced intimacy that the situation imposed on them. Jennifer could feel Michael's gaze upon her, studying her with that intensity that made her feel simultaneously vulnerable and valued. "I've been thinking a lot about our interrupted conversation," he finally said. Jennifer nodded. "So have I." "Robert and Amanda seem determined to complicate things," continued Michael. "But I want you to know that nothing they say or insinuate changes what I feel." Jennifer looked at him directly, gathering the courage to formulate the question that had been tormenting her for weeks. "And what exactly do you feel, Michael?" He took a step toward her, reducing the distance between them in that confined space. "I feel that at 55, when I thought I had already experienced everything important in life, you appeared and redefined what really matters." The sincerity in his voice made Jennifer feel a knot in her throat. No one had ever looked at her the way Michael was looking at her in that moment, as if she were the answer to a question he had been searching for all his life. "I'm afraid," she confessed in a whisper. "Afraid of confusing gratitude with something more. Afraid of believing in something that could vanish when the novelty wears off." Michael nodded understandingly. "Fear is natural when something truly matters, but at our age, Jennifer, don't you think we've earned the right to pursue happiness without ulterior motives?" The lights flickered again and the elevator resumed its journey with a jolt. The moment of intimacy was broken, but something had changed between them. A truth had been spoken and could no longer be ignored. When they reached Jennifer's floor, Michael didn't try to prolong the encounter. With a soft squeeze of her hand, he said goodbye. "Think about what I've said. There's no rush." That night, Jennifer could barely sleep, reliving the conversation in the elevator, analyzing every word, every gesture. At 52, after a life dedicated to caring for others, did she have the right to pursue her own happiness? And if everything went wrong? Could she bear losing not only Michael, but also the job stability she so desperately needed, especially now with her mother's situation? The following morning began with an unexpected call from David, the assistant manager. His voice sounded tense, almost alarming. "Jennifer, we need you to come to the boardroom immediately. A delicate situation has arisen." When she arrived, she found not only David but also Robert Williams and 2 members of the board of directors she didn't know. Michael, she noticed with concern, was not present. "Ms. Martinez," began Robert with that falsely cordial tone she had learned to fear, "certain events from your past work history have come to our attention that require clarification." He placed a file with the Vance logo on the table. "According to these documents, you were dismissed from your previous employment for irregularities in managing household funds." Jennifer felt the blood drain from her face. "That is completely false. There was never any such accusation. However," continued Robert, "this report signed by Richard Vance indicates otherwise. And curiously, it coincides with the date when Michael heroically rescued you in the rain." The implication was clear and devastating. They were suggesting that her encounter with Michael had been orchestrated, that everything was part of some kind of deception. "That's absurd," responded Jennifer, struggling to maintain her composure. "I have never committed any irregularity in my life. You can verify my references from the previous 15 years. David, visibly uncomfortable with the situation, intervened. "Jennifer, no one is making formal accusations. We just want to clarify the situation before rumors begin to circulate." "Rumors?" she repeated, beginning to understand. "What rumors exactly?" Robert smiled with false compassion. "Come now, Ms. Martinez. Your sudden hiring in a position of responsibility, the courtesy apartment, Michael's constant visits." "People talk." Jennifer straightened, feeling how indignation surpassed initial fear. "I understand. This isn't about my professionalism or any supposed fraud. It's about Michael and me." "It's about the reputation of the Palms Beverly," corrected Robert, "and ensuring that executive decisions aren't being influenced by personal factors." At that moment, the door to the room opened and Michael entered with a stormy expression. "Can someone explain to me what this unauthorized meeting means?" Robert seemed momentarily disconcerted, but recovered quickly. "We were just clarifying some details about Ms. Martinez's work history." Michael surveyed the room with a look that could have frozen hell. "Any investigation of staff must be authorized by me or the Director of Human Resources, neither of whom has been informed about this." He approached the table and took the file that Robert had presented, examining it briefly. "This document is a crude forgery. Richard Vance personally confirmed to me that Jennifer was an exemplary employee for 15 years. He turned to Jennifer, whose face showed the mixture of shock and indignation she felt. "Jennifer, could you please leave us alone? I have some matters to discuss with my partner." She hesitated for a moment but nodded and headed for the door. Before leaving, however, she turned to Robert. "Mr. Williams, I have been working with honesty and dedication for 30 years. My reputation is all I have, and I will not allow it to be tarnished by malicious insinuations. If you have any formal accusation to make, I am willing to face it legally." The firmness of her voice contrasted with the internal trembling she felt. Without waiting for a response, she left the room with her dignity intact but her heart in her throat. She spent the rest of the morning immersed in a state of anxiety and confusion. What did that meeting mean? Was her job in danger? And, most worryingly, if she lost her employment, what would happen to her mother, the apartment, the privileged medical attention she was receiving? In the mid-afternoon, Sarah called to inform her that Michael wanted to see her in the hotel garden, a space generally reserved for exclusive events that now, in the middle of the work week, was deserted. She found him sitting on a bench beneath an old magnolia in bloom, with a pensive expression. Upon seeing her arrive, he stood with that mixture of formality and warmth that was characteristic of him. "I deeply regret what happened this morning," he began without preamble. "Robert acted on his own, motivated by reasons that I now better understand." Jennifer sat beside him, maintaining a prudent distance. "What reasons?" Michael sighed. "Years ago, Robert fell in love with a hotel employee, a receptionist. They got married, and shortly after he discovered she was only interested in his money and position. The divorce was disastrous, and since then he deeply distrusts any relationship between people of different social status." "That explains his attitude toward me," murmured Jennifer, "but it doesn't justify the falsification of documents." "Of course not. I've spoken with him and with the board. Robert will take an indefinite leave to reflect on his actions, and he will present a formal apology to you." Jennifer nodded, but something still troubled her. "Michael, regardless of Robert's motivations, his insinuations don't completely lack basis. My current situation, the apartment, my mother, my job, everything depends on you. That creates an imbalance I can't ignore." Michael looked at her intensely. "Do you think that's what I feel for you? Some kind of power or control?" "No," she responded sincerely. "But I also can't help wondering if what you feel, what we both feel, is influenced by these circumstances." "I met you when you had nothing that could materially interest me," he reminded her, "and I felt this connection immediately. What has happened since has only reinforced my admiration and respect for you." He paused, carefully considering his next words. "But I understand your concern, and that's why I want to propose something to you." Jennifer looked at him expectantly. "We're about to inaugurate a new restaurant in the hotel, focused on California fusion cuisine, a more authentic concept, less pretentious than our current offering. We need someone to direct it, someone with a deep knowledge of real flavors, of true cooking." Jennifer frowned, confused by the apparent change of subject. "And what does that have to do with me?" Michael smiled. I've tasted your cooking, Jennifer. The dishes you prepare for your mother, which you've occasionally shared with the staff. You have an exceptional talent that you've kept hidden." Jennifer blushed. Cooking had always been her secret passion, something she did out of love, not obligation. The family recipes, perfected over generations, were her most precious treasure. "I'm not a professional chef," she objected. "The best chefs in the world began cooking out of love, not for diplomas," he responded. "I'm offering you the opportunity to direct that restaurant, a position completely independent of me, under the supervision of the group's culinary director in San Francisco. You would have creative autonomy, a significantly higher salary than your current one, and the possibility of developing a career that truly reflects your passion." The proposal left her speechless. It was as if Michael had seen a part of her that she hadn't even allowed herself to consider seriously. "Why would you do this for me?" Michael's gaze softened. "Because I want any relationship between us to be based on equality and mutual respect, not on dependency or gratitude. I want you to be with me, if that's your choice, because you truly desire it, not because you feel indebted." Jennifer felt tears threatening to overwhelm her. No one, in her entire life, had considered her desires and needs with such clarity and generosity. "I need time to think about it," she finally said. Michael nodded, respecting her space. "All the time you need. Meanwhile, your current position is absolutely secure. And regarding your mother and the apartment, those are completely separate matters. Regardless of your professional or personal decision, Gloria is welcome to stay there until her complete recovery." He stood, offering her a hand that she accepted after a moment of hesitation. "I only want your happiness, Jennifer. Even if that happiness doesn't include me." As she watched him walk away along the garden path, Jennifer understood that she was facing the most important crossroads of her life. It wasn't just about a job or a potential relationship. It was about allowing herself for the first time to pursue her own dreams without sacrificing them for the well-being of others. And that was perhaps the most valuable gift Michael had offered her, the possibility of choosing her own path, without conditions or obligations. The July heat poured over Los Angeles like a suffocating blanket when Jennifer finally made her decision. After weeks of reflection, deep conversations with her mother and personal introspection, she had decided to accept Michael's proposal and direct the new restaurant at the Palms Beverly Hotel. Gloria's Kitchen, that's what the establishment would be called, in honor of her mother and all the women who had passed down family recipes through generations, a space where California fusion cuisine would shine without pretensions, with authentic ingredients and techniques that respected the essence of each dish. "It's the right decision, daughter," Gloria had told her when Jennifer communicated her decision. "For the first time in your life, you're choosing something you deeply desire, not just what others expect of you." Michael's reaction was more contained, but no less significant. A gleam of pride and joy lit his eyes when Jennifer informed him of her decision in a formal meeting in his office. "The restaurant will be ready to open in September," he informed her. "You'll have complete freedom to select the kitchen staff and design the menu, although the group's executive chef will be available to advise you if needed." Jennifer nodded, feeling a mixture of enthusiasm and nervousness at the challenge ahead. "I want it to be a place where people rediscover authentic flavors, the ones they remember from their grandmother's kitchens." "Exactly what I had in mind," agreed Michael. Her counterpoint to the sometimes excessive sophistication of our current offering. There was a moment of comfortable silence between them, charged with unexpressed possibilities. "Regarding the other," began Jennifer, referring to the growing attraction between them that they had kept in suspension during these weeks. Michael raised a hand, gently stopping her. "One step at a time. First, consolidate your professional position. The personal can wait until you feel completely secure in your independence." Jennifer silently thanked his understanding. Michael seemed to perfectly understand her fears and reservations, respecting them without pressuring her. The following weeks passed in a frenzy of activity. Jennifer divided her time between supervising the restaurant's decoration, selecting staff, perfecting recipes, and caring for her mother, whose recovery was progressing favorably. Gloria could now move with the help of a walker and attended rehabilitation sessions 3 times a week. One afternoon, while Jennifer was experimenting with different versions of a traditional farm-to-table specialty in the hotel's test kitchen, she received an unexpected visit. Robert Williams, who had recently returned from his leave, appeared at the door with a cautious expression. "May I come in, Ms. Martinez?" Jennifer looked at him with surprise but nodded. During his absence, she had discovered that Robert had not only fabricated false documents about her, but had also been the one who spread rumors that caused her dismissal from the Vance estate. Apparently, he had known Richard for years, and upon learning that Michael would buy the property, had seen an opportunity to discredit Jennifer even before meeting her. "How can I help you, Mr. Williams?" she asked formally while continuing to precisely cut vegetables. Robert seemed uncomfortable, out of place in that environment of steaming pots and intense aromas. "I've come to formally apologize. My behavior toward you was inexcusable." Jennifer put down the knife and looked at him directly. "Why did you do it? You didn't even know me." Robert sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "To protect Michael. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The truth is that I projected my own fears and bad experiences onto your relationship." He took a seat on a kitchen stool, suddenly appearing older and more tired. "My ex-wife was a waitress at our first hotel. I thought she loved me for who I was, but she was only interested in my position and money. When Michael began showing interest in you, I saw history repeating itself." Jennifer nodded, understanding something that had escaped her until then. "It wasn't just about protecting him. It was about protecting yourself, your investment, everything you've built together." "That's right," admitted Robert. "But I was wrong. These months of reflection have allowed me to see that my prejudices were blinding me. You've demonstrated an admirable value and integrity, even in the face of my unjustified attacks." He extended an envelope toward her. "This is for you. Compensation for the damages caused, and my written commitment to fully support your new project." Jennifer didn't take the envelope. "I don't want your money, Mr. Williams. I just want respect, and the guarantee that you won't interfere with my work or my personal decisions." Robert seemed surprised but nodded with renewed respect. "You have my word. And if I may make a personal observation, Michael has changed since you entered his life. He's more focused, more connected with the original essence of our business. Perhaps you two need each other more than either of you is willing to admit." With those words, he said goodbye, leaving Jennifer with much to think about as she continued preparing that farm-to-table specialty, which was in a way a symbol of her own life, a mixture of diverse ingredients that, with time and patience, transformed into something nutritious and comforting. The LA Food and Wine Festival, one of the most important events on the city's social calendar, coincided with the final tests of the Gloria's kitchen menu. Jennifer had spent days perfecting each dish, adjusting flavors, presentations, and techniques until achieving a perfect balance between tradition and innovation. Michael surprised her with an invitation to attend the festival together, specifically a jazz performance in Grand Park that promised to be the highlight of the celebrations. "Not as boss and employee," he clarified when he extended the invitation. "As two people who enjoy each other's company." Jennifer accepted, aware that this time there would be no interruptions or misunderstandings. It was time to face what they both felt, to give a name to that connection that had grown between them, despite all obstacles. The night of the festival, Los Angeles transformed into an explosion of color, music, and joy. Grand Park, illuminated by thousands of lights, vibrated with the energy of jazz, the clapping, the foot-tapping, and that raw passion that only the musicians could transmit. Jennifer and Michael shared a table at one of the terraces surrounding the park, enjoying the performance while conversing about everything and nothing with the comfort of those who have developed an intimacy that transcends words. "This is my Los Angeles," commented Jennifer, as she watched a pair of musicians execute a soulful blues piece with captivating intensity. "The authentic one, the one that beats beneath the cosmopolitan surface that tourists see." Michael was looking at her more than at the show, fascinated by how the light from the golden street lamps enhanced the copper tones of her hair and the enthusiastic sparkle in her eyes. "It's what I admire most about you," he said softly. "Your authenticity, your ability to see and value the true essence of things." Jennifer felt the blush rising in her cheeks, but she no longer tried to hide it. At 52, she finally allowed herself to feel without reservations or shame. When the performance ended and the crowd began to disperse, They decided to walk through old downtown LA, enjoying the summer night that had cooled slightly after a scorching day. "There's something I've wanted to tell you," Michael began as they walked through Pershing Square, a historic corner surprisingly tranquil despite its proximity to tourist areas. "Something I've postponed for too long." Jennifer felt her heart accelerate. "I'm listening." Michael stopped under an old street lamp, gently taking her hands in his. "Jennifer, I've built an empire based on the idea of offering luxury and comfort to those who can afford it. For years I believed that was my purpose, my contribution to the world." He paused, searching for the exact words. "But since I met you, I've understood that true wealth isn't in luxurious objects or exclusive environments. It's in authenticity, in the ability to genuinely connect with others, in valuing what truly matters." Jennifer felt a knot in her throat as she listened, perceiving the sincerity that emanated from every word. "Now you've taught me to rediscover the values with which I began, before success and social appearances began to dictate my path," he continued. "And in the process, I've fallen in love with you, not with a romantic idea or a concept. With you, Jennifer Martinez, with your strength, your dignity, your generous heart, and your ability to see beauty where others see ordinariness." The words hung between them, resonating in the silence of the deserted square. Jennifer felt something expanding in her chest, an emotion so intense it almost hurt. "I'm afraid," she confessed with a trembling voice, "afraid that this is too beautiful to be real, that one day you'll wake up and realize I'm just a domestic worker with pretensions." Michael shook his head, drawing closer to her. "I'm afraid too, Jennifer. Afraid of not being worthy of you seeing beyond my material success and discovering that, in many ways, I'm a simple man who just wants to be loved for who he truly is, not for what he possesses." Their faces were so close now that Jennifer could feel his warm breath mixing with hers. The tension between them, accumulated during months of restraint and doubt, seemed about to overflow. "What do we do then?" she whispered. "Trust," responded Michael. "Trust that what we feel is strong enough to overcome differences and obstacles. Trust that we deserve this opportunity for happiness, despite our fears." And then, with the gentleness of someone who fears breaking something infinitely valuable, Michael leaned in and kissed Jennifer. A tentative kiss at first, which transformed into a profound expression of all they had contained for so long. When they finally separated, Jennifer felt that something definitive had changed within her. The wall she had built over the years, the protection against vulnerability and pain, began to crumble. "This won't be easy," she warned, always practical even in moments of greatest emotion. "There will be gossip, questioning, perhaps even open opposition." Michael smiled, gently caressing her cheek. "Nothing worth having is easy, Jennifer. And you're worth more than any outside opinion." They walked back to the hotel under the starry Los Angeles sky, with their hands intertwined in a new shared certainty. Whatever the future held for them, they would face it together, with the honesty and authenticity that formed the basis of their connection. And as they advanced along the palm-lined streets, Jennifer understood that this time, the predominant taste in her life wasn't the bitter one of resignation or the bittersweet one of nostalgia. It was the full and comforting taste of truth, of accepting herself and allowing herself to be loved exactly as she was. Summer gave way to fall, and with it came the inauguration of Gloria's Kitchen. The restaurant, located in a privileged corner of the Palms Beverly Hotel with views of the downtown skyline, had become the materialization of Jennifer's dreams. The decor evoked a traditional California home, with handmade tiles, warm woods, and details that recalled the family kitchens where recipes were passed down from generation to generation. The menu, carefully designed to represent the diversity of California cuisine, ranged from humble country stews to sophisticated reinterpretations of regional dishes, all prepared with the highest quality ingredients from small local producers. On opening night, all of Los Angeles seemed to have gathered to experience the new culinary proposal that promised to revolutionize the city's dining scene. Critics, specialized journalists, celebrities, and regular hotel guests filled every table, creating an atmosphere of expectation that tested Jennifer's nerves. "You look radiant," Michael told her when they briefly met in the kitchen, where she was supervising the final details before beginning service. He kissed her fleetingly, aware of the professionalism they both maintained in the workplace despite their personal relationship. which had blossomed in recent months. Jennifer smiled, appreciating his silent support. "I'm terrified," she confessed. "What if they don't like it? If they consider it too simple for a hotel like this?" "Trust your vision," he responded with conviction. "You've created something authentic in a world of imitations. That always finds its audience." The service began, and Jennifer observed from her strategic position how diners received each dish. The initial comments were encouraging. Expressions of pleasant surprise animated conversations, plates returning to the kitchen completely empty. Among the most distinguished guests was Thomas Reynolds, the most influential food critic in the United States, known for his sharp pen and extreme demands. Jennifer observed him as he tasted the farm-to-table specialty, the flagship dish of her new menu, prepared according to her grandmother's recipe with small technical updates that respected the original essence. The critic maintained a neutral expression as he ate, something that unsettled Jennifer. When he finished, he asked to speak with the chef, a request that staff immediately relayed to Jennifer. "Ms. Martinez," greeted Reynolds when she approached his table. "I must confess I came tonight with a certain skepticism. The news that a former housekeeper would direct a restaurant at the Palms generated, as you'll understand, certain doubts in culinary circles." Jennifer nodded, maintaining her composure despite the condescending reference to her past. "However," continued the critic, "what I've tasted today has left me speechless. Your farm-to-table specialty is quite simply the best I've eaten in my life. And believe me, I've tried versions in every corner of California." The tension Jennifer had been accumulating began to dissipate at those unexpected words. "The honesty of your proposal, the courage to present apparently simple dishes with such respect for tradition and at the same time with impeccable technique, deserves all my recognition. Gloria's Kitchen is exactly what American haute cuisine needed, a return to the roots without losing sight of excellence." By the time Reynolds left, promising a review that, he anticipated, would change the perception of traditional cooking in gourmet circles, Jennifer felt a mixture of relief and euphoria. The night continued with similar praise from other critics and customers, confirming that her vision had connected with the public in a way that not even she had anticipated. At the end of service, the kitchen team burst into spontaneous applause. Jennifer, moved, thanked each one for their dedication and effort. She had carefully selected her staff, prioritizing passion and respect for ingredients over resumes filled with starred restaurants. "This success belongs to all of us," she affirmed sincerely. "Each of you has put your heart into these dishes, and that's what people have felt when tasting them." As the kitchen was cleaned and organized for the next day's service, Michael returned to personally congratulate her. "I told you," he commented with a proud smile. "You've created something extraordinary, Jennifer." He embraced her discreetly, respecting the professional space they had both agreed to maintain at the hotel. "I'll wait for you upstairs when you finish. We have to properly celebrate." Jennifer nodded, feeling an inner warmth that surpassed any professional success. Her relationship with Michael had evolved in these months into something deep and meaningful, based on mutual respect and understanding. Gloria, who now walked with a cane and had recovered much of her independence, observed them with approval, though she didn't stop making comments about how slow some important matters are moving. When she finally went up to the apartment, she found Michael waiting for her with a bottle of champagne and a simple dinner he had prepared himself. "It doesn't compare to your cooking," he apologized as he served some scrambled eggs with potatoes. "But I thought after hours among stoves, you'd appreciate something simple." Jennifer sat, moved by the gesture. "It's perfect." They dined quietly, commenting on the night's highlights and future prospects for Gloria's Kitchen. The restaurant already had reservations for the upcoming weeks, and social networks were beginning to fill with enthusiastic photos and comments about the dishes. "I have something for you," said Michael when they finished dining. He pulled a small box from his pocket and placed it on the table. "It's not what you think," he quickly added, upon seeing Jennifer's surprised expression. "Open it." Inside was an antique key of polished brass with an elaborate design on the handle. "What is this?" asked Jennifer, intrigued. "The key to my parents' first inn in Pasadena," explained Michael. "The place where I learned everything important about hospitality and hard work. It's been with me at every stage of my career, as a reminder of my origins." Jennifer held the key with reverence, understanding the profound meaning of the gift. I want you to have it, he continued, as a symbol that despite everything I've built, what I truly value are authentic things, those with a real story behind them. Jennifer felt tears threatening to overwhelm her. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, he responded, taking her hands in his. I just wanted you to know how proud I am of you and how grateful I feel to have you in my life. They kissed softly, sealing a moment that both felt was a turning point in their relationship. They were no longer simply two people exploring an unexpected attraction. They were companions who had found in each other a reflection of their own essential values. The happiness of that perfect night, however, was destined to face its most difficult test. The next morning, while Jennifer was preparing breakfast for her mother, she received an urgent call from Sarah. Jennifer, we need you to come to the hotel immediately. The assistant's voice sounded alarmingly tense. A critical situation has arisen that requires your presence. When she arrived at the Palms, she found an atmosphere of barely contained crisis. David met her in the lobby with a grave expression. What's happening? Asked Jennifer, alarmed. It's Michael, responded David, guiding her toward a private meeting room. He collapsed during a video conference with international investors. He's in the hospital right now. Jennifer felt the ground opening beneath her feet. What happened to him? Is it serious? The doctors are running tests, but... David paused as if hesitant to continue. It seems it could be his heart. Apparently he's been hiding health problems for months. The news hit Jennifer like a physical punch. Health problems for months. Why hadn't Michael told her anything? I need to go to the hospital, she said, gathering her purse. There's another urgent matter. David stopped her. The Horizon Hotels Group has presented a hostile offer to acquire the Palms. Apparently, they've been waiting for a moment of vulnerability, and the news of Michael's collapse has accelerated their plans. Jennifer looked at him incredulously. How is that possible? The hotel isn't for sale. It's complicated, explained David. There are minority shareholders who could be persuaded if they think Michael isn't in a condition to continue leading the group. Robert is trying to contain the situation, but we need a contingency plan. Jennifer felt torn between concern for Michael and the immediate threat to the hotel that meant so much to both of them. What can I do? David looked at her intensely. Michael trusts you more than anyone. If there's any strategy, any plan he's mentioned for situations like this. Jennifer shook her head, overwhelmed. Michael had never shared the financial or strategic details of the business with her, maintaining a clear separation between their personal relationship and business matters. However, as she thought about it, she recalled the conversations they had had about the fundamental values of the hotel, about the importance of maintaining authenticity in an increasingly homogenized world. I need to see the details of the offer, she finally said, and the financial reports from the last quarters. David seemed surprised but nodded. I'll have them sent to you immediately. During the following hours, while waiting for news from the hospital, Jennifer immersed herself in documents and figures that revealed an image Michael had kept hidden. The hotel, although successful in appearance, faced significant financial challenges due to aggressive expansion in recent years and investments that hadn't yielded the expected results. The offer from Horizon Hotels, though hostile in its approach, offered an apparently advantageous exit for shareholders concerned about the group's future. But Jennifer, analyzing more deeply, detected problematic clauses that would essentially dismantle the unique identity of the Palms, turning it into another generic hotel in an international chain. When she finally could visit Michael in the hospital, she found him connected to monitors and with a fragile appearance, something she would never have associated with that always strong and decisive man. You shouldn't be here, were his first words upon seeing her. You should be at the restaurant. Jennifer approached, taking his hand carefully so as not to disturb the wires and IVs. How can you think I'd be anywhere else? Michael sighed, briefly closing his eyes. I didn't want you to see me like this. Is that why you didn't tell me anything about your condition? She asked, trying to control the pain and concern in her voice. The doctors detected irregularities in my heart 6 months ago, he admitted. Nothing immediately dangerous according to them, but they recommended reducing stress and following a treatment. I guess I didn't follow their advice very well. Jennifer felt a mixture of anger and fear. Why didn't you trust me? Michael looked at her with a vulnerability he had never shown before. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't want to be defined by my limitations or problems. With you, I felt strong, complete. I didn't want to change that. The tears Jennifer had been containing finally overflowed. Trusting others doesn't make you weaker, Michael. It's what makes us human. He nodded, gently squeezing her hand. I know that now. And there's something else you should know. The hotel is in danger. I'm already aware of the Horizon offer, responded Jennifer. I've been reviewing the documents. Michael looked at her in surprise. You? But those matters have always been handled by Robert. And perhaps that's been part of the problem, responded Jennifer firmly. I've found inconsistencies in some of the financial reports from recent years. Investments that don't make sense, expenses that seem inflated. Michael's expression hardened. Are you suggesting— I'm not suggesting anything yet, Jennifer interrupted him. I'm just saying there are aspects that need a deeper investigation, and that perhaps Horizon's offer isn't coincidental or sudden. It could be part of a more elaborate plan. Michael tried to sit up, agitated, but the monitors began emitting alerts and a nurse quickly entered the room. He needs to rest, she warned firmly, adjusting something in one of the IV drips. Visits will have to wait. Jennifer leaned in, softly kissing Michael's forehead. Rest. I'll take care of everything until you recover. Jennifer, he called as she headed for the door. Be careful. If there's something shady in this, you could be putting yourself in danger. She nodded, feeling a determination that surpassed any fear. Some risks are worth taking, Michael. You taught me that. Upon leaving the hospital, Jennifer had a plan forming in her mind. During her night studies in hotel management, she had developed a special interest in the financial and strategic aspects of the business. Knowledge she had kept in the background, but which now could prove fundamental. She returned to the hotel and requested an urgent meeting with the management team, including Robert. To her surprise, Michael's partner seemed genuinely concerned about the situation. Horizon has been lurking for months, explained Robert during the meeting. They've taken advantage of every weakness, every stumble, and now, with Michael hospitalized, they've launched their definitive attack. Jennifer studied his expression, looking for signs of deception, but found only the natural tension of someone facing a business crisis. I need complete access to all financial records from the last 5 years, she requested firmly, and direct contact with the main shareholders. I have an idea that could save us from this hostile acquisition, but I need your collaboration. Robert looked at her skeptically. With all due respect, Jennifer, these matters require financial experience and knowledge of the hotel market. I have a diploma in hotel management with a specialization in financial strategy, she responded, maintaining her composure. And more importantly, I understand the essence of what makes the Palms special, what Horizon would immediately destroy if they take control. In the days that followed, while Michael began a slow recovery in the hospital, Jennifer worked tirelessly, analyzing documents, identifying patterns, developing an alternative strategy that she would present to shareholders as a counter-proposal to Horizon's offer. Her plan was bold, a restructuring that would preserve the unique identity of the Palms while addressing the underlying financial problems. The immediate success of Gloria's Kitchen would be used as a proof of concept for a new business approach that combined traditional excellence with authentic innovations. When she finally presented her plan to the board of directors, including the most important shareholders who had flown in from different parts of the world for this crucial meeting, Jennifer felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Not only was the future of the hotel at stake, but also Michael's legacy and, in a way, her own credibility. What Horizon offers is an illusion of security in exchange for the soul of this hotel, she began, addressing the room with a confidence that surprised even those who knew her well. What I propose to you is a more challenging but infinitely more rewarding path, reinventing the Palms without losing what makes it unique. For 2 hours, she broke down her plan point by point, backing each statement with solid data and realistic projections. She answered difficult questions without hesitation, demonstrating a knowledge of the business that no one had anticipated in the former housekeeper turned chef. When she finished, a reflective silence filled the room. Finally, the chairman of the board, an older man who had been a friend of Michael's father, spoke. Ms. Martinez, I must admit you've impressed us all. Your plan is risky without a doubt, but also visionary in a way that reminds me of the young Michael when he took control of the family business. He looked around the table, evaluating the reactions of the others. I propose we put her proposal to a vote as a formal alternative to Horizon's offer. To the surprise of many, especially Robert, Jennifer's plan received majority support from the board. The conditions imposed included a 6-month trial period and close supervision by a special committee, but the essentials were secured. The Palms would remain independent and true to its founding values. When Jennifer returned to the hospital that night to share the news with Michael, she found him sitting in a chair by the window, visibly stronger, though still connected to monitors. "You did it," he said, even before she could speak. "Robert called me, completely amazed by your presentation." Jennifer smiled, feeling for the first time in days how tension left her shoulders. "It wasn't just my merit. Your team is extraordinary when they're allowed to shine." She approached, sitting across from him. "But there's something else I discovered during the investigation. Something you need to know." She explained the irregularities she had found in some contracts and transactions, all indirectly linked to a name Michael knew well, Richard Vance. "It seems your old friend has been manipulating for some time to weaken your position," she concluded. "The purchase of his mansion, my dismissal, even some of the recent financial problems. Everything is part of an elaborate plan to force the sale of the Palms to Horizon, where apparently he has hidden interests." Michael listened with a grave expression, connecting dots that until then had remained isolated. "Richard always envied what I built," he reflected, "but I never thought he would go so far. The good news is that now we have enough evidence to counter any new attempt," Jennifer reassured him. "The hotel is safe, at least for now." Michael took her hands, looking at her with a mixture of admiration and something deeper. "You're extraordinary, do you know that? You've saved not only my business, but also my legacy." Jennifer shook her head. "I just did what you would have done. What you taught me to do. Fight for what truly matters." They looked at each other in silence, aware that this crisis, though painful, had revealed fundamental truths about both of them and their relationship. Jennifer had discovered capabilities she didn't even know she possessed. Michael had learned that true strength wasn't in self-sufficiency, but in allowing oneself to be vulnerable with those one loved. "The doctors say I'll be able to leave in a few days," commented Michael, changing the subject. "With medication and some changes in my lifestyle, of course." "I'll personally make sure you follow every instruction," warned Jennifer firmly. "No more secrets about your health, understood?" Michael nodded, recognizing the justice of her demand. "Understood. And speaking of secrets, there's something else I've been hiding." Jennifer looked at him expectantly, preparing for another potentially problematic revelation. "I've been researching my maternal family," continued Michael, "specifically about my grandmother Rose, who was from a small town in Santa Barbara County." "And why is that a secret?" asked Jennifer, confused. "Because in the process I discovered something surprising." He paused, as if still assimilating the information. "My grandmother worked for years as a cook in a big house in Pasadena. The house belonged to the Martinez family." Jennifer felt a chill run down her spine. Martinez, her mother's maiden name. "Are you saying—" Michael nodded slowly. "I'm saying there's a possibility that our families were connected in the past, that perhaps our meeting in the rain wasn't as casual as it seemed." Jennifer was left speechless, trying to process this new information. Was it possible that there was an invisible thread that had been guiding them toward each other over the years? "I need to talk to my mother," she finally said. "She might know something about this." Michael nodded, understanding. "Of course. And when I'm recovered, we could travel together to Santa Barbara, investigate further." Jennifer looked at him, feeling how all the scattered pieces of her life were beginning to form a coherent pattern. "I'd like that." When she left the hospital that night, under a Los Angeles sky sprinkled with stars, Jennifer felt a strange sensation of fullness. The crisis wasn't over. The challenges remained enormous, but for the first time in her life, she felt she was exactly where she should be, doing exactly what she should be doing. And that certainty, she understood as she walked through streets she now truly felt as her own, was perhaps the most valuable gift Michael and this unexpected adventure had given her. The small town of Santa Barbara, with its Spanish colonial architecture and Pacific views, seemed frozen in time under the afternoon sun. Its famous vineyards stood out against the intense blue sky, silent guardians of the history that Jennifer and Michael had come to discover. 3 months had passed since the hotel crisis and Michael's hospitalization. His recovery was progressing favorably, although doctors insisted he maintain a more relaxed pace of life. Jennifer's restructuring plan had begun to yield positive results. Hotel occupancy had increased. Gloria's Kitchen had become one of the most sought-after restaurants in Los Angeles, and the threat of hostile acquisition by Horizon Hotels seemed definitively neutralized. Richard Vance, after his role in the conspiracy was discovered, now faced investigations for financial manipulation and conflict of interest. Robert, who had proven not to be involved in the irregularities, worked closely with Jennifer in implementing her strategy, finally recognizing her value beyond her relationship with Michael. "Are you sure this is it?" asked Jennifer, as they parked in front of a small stone house on the outskirts of town. The structure, though modest, showed the care of generations in its flowery pots and immaculate whitewashed walls. Michael nodded, consulting the notes he had compiled during his research. According to records, this was the Martinez home from the late 19th century until the 1950s, when the family dispersed to different cities in California. Jennifer felt a knot in her throat. Conversations with her mother had confirmed the initial suspicions. Gloria remembered stories about her great-aunt Sophia, who had worked as a cook in a grand house in Pasadena, where she coincided with a young woman named Rose, Michael's grandmother. "It's as if we're closing a circle that began more than 70 years ago," commented Jennifer as they approached the door. An elderly woman opened it, looking at them with curiosity. Jennifer explained the purpose of their visit, mentioning the surnames Martinez and Thompson. The woman's face lit up with recognition. "Of course I remember the Martinez family. My mother was a second cousin of Sophia," she exclaimed, inviting them into a cool room where old photographs covered the walls. "And the Thompsons. They had that small inn in Pasadena that later became so famous." During the following hours, seated around a table with coffee and homemade pastries, they heard stories that connected their families in ways they had never imagined. According to the elderly woman, Rose and Sophia had been not just co-workers but close friends, sharing recipes and dreams in the kitchen of that grand house. "In fact," added the woman, standing to search for something in an old chest, "I have something that might interest you." She returned with a worn notebook whose yellowed pages contained handwritten recipes in careful calligraphy. This was Sophia's recipe book. "I inherited it from my mother, but I think it should be with her family." Jennifer took the notebook with trembling hands, immediately recognizing some of the recipes her own mother had prepared throughout the years, orally transmitted through generations. But what truly took her breath away was an inscription on the first page. "For my dear friend Sophia, so you never forget that true flavors, like true friendships, endure beyond time and distance. With love, Rose." Michael, looking over her shoulder, read the words aloud, his voice slightly broken with emotion. "That's my grandmother's handwriting," he confirmed. "I'd recognize that calligraphy anywhere." The elderly woman smiled nostalgically. "Life takes so many turns. And now here you are united after so many years. Sophia used to say that good recipes, like good affections, always find their way back home even when they seem lost." When they left the house, with the recipe book carefully stored and promises to stay in touch, Jennifer and Michael walked in silence toward the iconic vineyards that dominated the landscape. The afternoon was beginning to wane, bathing the Santa Barbara fields in a golden light that seemed taken from a painting. "What are you thinking?" asked Michael as they climbed the stone path that led to the main vineyard. Jennifer smiled, her eyes fixed on the infinite horizon. "About how strange life is, how two people can be destined to meet, even if it takes a lifetime to do so." Michael took her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. "So you believe in destiny, then?" "I believe in connections that transcend time," she responded after reflecting. "I don't know if to call it destiny, but there are definitely forces that guide us to where we should be." They stopped at the top of the hill, with the panoramic view of the town at their feet and the soft wind ruffling their hair. It was a perfect moment. One of those instants when time seems suspended and all the pieces of the universe fit exactly as they should. Michael turned to her, taking her hands in his. "Jennifer, these last months have been the most significant of my life, not just because of the hotel crisis or my health problem, but because they've taught me what truly matters." Jennifer looked at him in silence, feeling that a crucial moment was approaching that they had both been postponing, perhaps waiting for the right moment and place. "I love you," continued Michael with a simplicity that contrasted with the depth of his words. "I love you in a way I never thought possible at my age. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you, if you'll accept me." He didn't kneel or pull out a velvet box. There were no grand theatrical gestures or grandiose declarations, just the naked truth of a man who had finally found what he had been searching for all his life. Jennifer felt tears springing forth uncontrollably. "I love you too, Michael. And yes, I want to share my life with you." They kissed under the setting sun, with the centuries-old vineyards as silent witnesses to a love that somehow seemed to have begun long before they themselves existed. "We should go back," suggested Jennifer when they finally separated. "Mum will be anxious to know what we discovered." Michael nodded, but before starting the descent, he pulled a small box from his jacket pocket. "I almost forgot. This is also for you." Jennifer opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring, a white gold band with a small emerald, surrounded by tiny diamonds that sparkled like stars around a green planet. "It was my grandmother Rose's," explained Michael. "The only object of value she kept throughout her life, even in the most difficult times. She always said it would find its way to the right person at the right time." Jennifer contemplated it, marveled not so much by its material value as by its meaning. A family legacy, a symbol of continuity that now connected her past with her future in ways she never would have imagined. "It's perfect," she whispered as Michael slid it onto her finger. They needed no more words. The circle that had begun decades ago in the kitchen of a grand house in Pasadena was finally completed, under the Santa Barbara sky, among vineyards that had seen generations pass. During the journey back to Los Angeles, they planned how they would give the news to Gloria, though both suspected that the perceptive elderly woman probably already anticipated the outcome of their excursion to Santa Barbara. "Have you thought about where you'd like us to live?" asked Michael as he drove on the highway that wound between olive groves and vineyards. Jennifer reflected for a moment. "The hotel apartment has been perfect for Mum's recovery, but I don't see it as a permanent home." Michael smiled, as if he had been expecting precisely that answer. "I have a property in the outskirts of LA. Nothing ostentatious, an old house with a garden and views of the mountains. I bought it years ago as a personal refuge, though I've barely had time to enjoy it." "It sounds wonderful," responded Jennifer, already imagining their own space where they could build a life together, away from the hustle of the hotel and the constant pressures of the business world. Upon arriving in Los Angeles, as they had anticipated, Gloria received them with a knowing smile. She barely needed to see the glow in their eyes and the ring on Jennifer's finger to understand what had happened. "It's about time," was her only comment, before embracing them both with surprising strength for a woman of her age. "Now, show me that famous recipe book. I want to see if Sophia correctly remembered the marinade recipe that my father loved so much." That night, as Michael and Gloria animatedly discussed the regional variations of farm-to-table cooking, Jennifer observed the scene with a sense of fullness she had never before experienced. Her past and her present intertwined harmoniously, creating the foundations for a future that, for the first time, she dared to imagine without reservations or fears. Autumn had arrived once again in Los Angeles, completing a cycle since that rainy day when Jennifer and Michael met. Preparations for the wedding were advancing discreetly, as both had opted for an intimate ceremony with only family and close friends. Gloria's Kitchen had established itself as one of the most respected restaurants in Los Angeles, recently receiving its first Michelin star, a recognition Jennifer never would have dreamed of obtaining. The success had allowed her to expand her vision, incorporating a culinary training program for young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, an initiative that provided her with special satisfaction. Michael, following medical recommendations, had delegated part of his responsibilities, focusing on strategic projects while David assumed the daily management of the hotel group. His health had improved notably, though medications and regular checkups were now part of his routine. Everything seemed to be heading toward the happiness they both deserved. However, one early October afternoon, Jennifer received a call that would once again alter the course of their lives. "Ms. Martinez." The voice on the other end of the phone belonged to a lawyer who introduced himself as the representative of her Aunt Linda, her mother's sister, whom Jennifer barely remembered. I regret to inform you that your aunt passed away last week in San Francisco. Jennifer received the news with a mixture of sadness and bewilderment. Linda had emigrated to Northern California decades ago, maintaining only sporadic contact with Gloria. My deepest condolences, responded Jennifer. I'll inform my mother immediately. There's another matter I must communicate to you, continued the lawyer. Your Aunt Linda has named you the universal heir to her properties, which include a family winery in Napa Valley and a house in San Francisco. The news fell like a bomb on Jennifer's carefully planned life. According to the lawyer, Linda had developed a thriving wine business in the Napa Valley region, specializing in high-quality organic wines that were beginning to gain international recognition. The winery urgently needs someone to take over its management, explained the attorney. Your aunt left specific instructions that she wanted you to continue her legacy based on your recent success in California cuisine and your knowledge of the hospitality sector. When Jennifer shared the news with Michael that night, she found in him an understanding that only strengthened her love. You must go to Napa Valley, he said without hesitation, at least to see the property and understand what Linda wanted for you. And us? The wedding, the restaurant, your treatments? Asked Jennifer, distressed at the possibility of a separation. Michael took her hands in his. All that can wait or be adapted. The important thing is that you don't miss this opportunity to connect with another branch of your family, to explore a path that could be significant for you. 2 weeks later, Jennifer was landing in San Francisco with mixed feelings. The vibrant city received her with its characteristic misty energy, so different from the more relaxed elegance of Los Angeles. Her aunt's house, a Victorian mansion in the Pacific Heights neighborhood, held evidence of a fascinating life that Jennifer regretted not having known better. Photographs, books, objects collected from travels around the world. Every corner told stories of a woman who had created her own path far from her origins, building an impressive legacy. But it was upon visiting the winery in Napa Valley when Jennifer truly felt the impact of the inheritance she had received. Located in a valley of breathtaking beauty, with rolling hills covered in vineyards, Martinez Vineyards extended for acres of passionately and knowledgeably tended vines. Your aunt was a visionary, explained William Parker, the head winemaker, as he guided her through the facilities. When she started with organic production 20 years ago, many considered her crazy. Now we're leaders in the sector. Jennifer spent days immersed in every aspect of the business, from cultivation methods to production and marketing processes. She discovered that the winery not only produced exceptional wines, but had also developed programs to support the local community, offering stable jobs and specialized training to families in the area. Ms. Linda always said that a good wine should reflect not just the land where the grape grows, but also the dignity of those who cultivate it, commented Sarah, her aunt's personal assistant, as they shared dinner on the terrace of the main house, with the sunset tinting the vineyards orange and purple. That night, Jennifer had a long video call with Michael, sharing her impressions and discoveries. For the first time, she expressed aloud the doubt that was beginning to form inside her. This place is extraordinary, Michael. What Linda built here, it's a legacy that deserves to continue, and I think I could be the one to do it. There was silence on the other side of the screen, but not one of disapproval. Michael observed her with a mixture of pride and understanding that only intensified Jennifer's internal conflict. I've always known you're capable of extraordinary things, he finally responded, and you deserve the opportunity to explore your full potential. But what would happen to us? The question floated between them, laden with painful implications. True love isn't measured by physical proximity, reflected Michael. It's measured by the capacity to desire the other's happiness, even when that means sacrificing one's own. Jennifer felt silent tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't want to lose you. Not after everything we've lived through to be together. You won't lose me, he reassured her, but you need time to decide which path to take, and I'll respect whatever decision you consider right for you. The following days were of intense reflection for Jennifer. On one hand, she felt a deep connection with the winery, with the land her aunt had loved, with the project she had developed with such passion. On the other, her heart was in Los Angeles with Michael, with her mother, with the restaurant that bore Gloria's name. One afternoon, while walking among the vineyards, she found an elderly woman working meticulously in a secluded plot. Something in her posture, in the precision of her movements, intensely reminded Jennifer of her mother. Mrs. Eleanor, introduced William, who was accompanying her on her tour. She's worked in these vineyards since before your aunt bought the property. She knows each plant as if it were part of her family. The woman, with a face weathered by the sun and gnarled but strong hands, greeted her with a natural dignity that Jennifer immediately recognized. They talked for hours, seated in the shade of an old oak tree, about the land, the vines, the seasons, about life and its inevitable cycles. "Sometimes we think we must choose between two loves," said Eleanor with the wisdom that only years bestow. "But big hearts can embrace more than one passion, more than one place, more than one way of loving." That night, Jennifer made her decision. She called Michael not with sadness, but with the serenity of someone who has found her path. "I've decided to accept the inheritance and direct the winery," she communicated directly. "But not as an alternative to our life together, rather as an extension of it." She explained her vision, dividing her time between Napa Valley and Los Angeles, developing a collaboration between Gloria's Kitchen and Martinez Vineyards that would benefit both businesses, creating a cultural and gastronomic exchange between two worlds that, at heart, shared deep roots. "It won't be easy," she acknowledged, "but if we've learned anything, it's that things worth having rarely are." Michael's response wasn't long in coming. "I've always believed in expanding horizons, not limiting them. We can make this work, Jennifer. Together." Los Angeles International Airport bustled with activity when Jennifer came through the arrival gates, anxiously searching among the crowd. 3 months had passed since her departure to Napa Valley. 3 months of intense work, important decisions, and preparations for this new stage of her life. Finally, she saw him. Michael waited with a bouquet of wildflowers, those that grew in the Santa Barbara fields, and that Jennifer had always preferred to sophisticated hothouse flowers. Beside him, in a wheelchair, but with a healthy and animated appearance, Gloria smiled broadly. The reunion was emotional, full of embraces, contained tears, and that peculiar sensation that, despite the time elapsed, nothing fundamental had changed between them. "I've missed you every day," whispered Michael as he embraced her, inhaling the scent of her hair as if wanting to memorize every detail again. "And I you," she responded, separating just enough to look into his eyes. "But now I'm home." "For how long?" asked Gloria with her characteristic frankness as they left the airport. Jennifer smiled. 2 months. Time enough for our wedding, and to launch the collaboration between Gloria's Kitchen and Martinez Vineyards. During the journey to the city, Jennifer told them about the progress made in Napa Valley, the restructuring of the winery's management team, the expansion plans toward European markets, the creation of a foundation that would continue and expand the social work initiated by her aunt. "The most fascinating thing has been discovering how many similarities exist between the wine traditions of Santa Barbara and Napa Valley," she explained enthusiastically. "It's as if wine were an invisible thread connecting our cultures across the state." Michael listened to her with evident pride, recognizing in her passion and knowledge the same woman who had transformed a culinary concept into one of the most acclaimed restaurants in Los Angeles. "Gloria's Kitchen has missed you," he commented when they reached the city. "Although David has maintained the standards, everyone is waiting for your return, even if it's temporary." The following days passed in a frenzy of activity. Jennifer divided her time between the restaurant, wedding preparations, meetings with wine importers interested in Martinez Vineyards production, and of course, precious moments with Michael and Gloria. One afternoon, while reviewing the final details of the ceremony in Michael's office, they were interrupted by an urgent call. The executive chef at Gloria's Kitchen had suffered a domestic accident and would be out for at least 2 weeks. "Just when we have full reservations and several international critics confirmed," lamented Jennifer, considering the available options. "I'll have to personally assume direction of the kitchen during this period." Michael observed her with a thoughtful expression. "Are you sure? With everything you already have on your plate?" Jennifer nodded with determination. "The restaurant is my creation. I can't allow its reputation to be compromised, especially now that we're about to launch the collaboration with the winery." The following days were exhausting. Jennifer spent 14 hours daily in the kitchen, ensuring that each dish maintained the quality that had made Gloria's Kitchen a culinary reference. She returned to the apartment exhausted, barely with energy to review the latest wedding details before collapsing. One night, particularly grueling with the restaurant full and a New York Times critic among the diners, Jennifer felt a pang of doubt. Would it really be possible to maintain this rhythm of life divided between two locations? Was she being fair to Michael, to her mother, to herself? While preparing the house specialty dessert, a citrus flan with lavender honey whose recipe came directly from Sophia's old notebook, she felt a presence behind her. It was Michael, who rarely visited the kitchen during service to avoid interfering in her professional space. "Is something wrong?" asked Jennifer, without stopping her work. "I came to bring you this," he responded, placing a small package wrapped in tissue paper on the counter. It arrived this afternoon from Napa Valley. Intrigued, Jennifer cleaned her hands and opened the wrapping. Inside, she found a wine bottle with a special label, Encounter Limited Edition. The image showed two vineyards, one from Santa Barbara and another from Napa Valley, with vines extending between them. "It's the first batch of our collaboration," explained Michael. "William sent it so we can toast with it at our wedding." Jennifer held the bottle with reverence, understanding the profound symbolism it contained. It wasn't just a wine. It was the materialization of two worlds united, of two traditions that met and enriched each other mutually, like her and Michael. "It's perfect," she whispered, feeling that the doubt that had assailed her moments before dissipated. Yes, it would be difficult. Yes, it would require sacrifices and compromises from both parties, but together they had created something unique, something that transcended distances and difficulties. That night when the restaurant closed and the critic left visibly impressed, Michael was waiting to accompany her home. They walked under the starry Los Angeles sky, with the bottle of Encounter carefully stored in Jennifer's bag. "I've been thinking," began Michael in a casual tone, "that I could take a sabbatical year." Jennifer looked at him in surprise. "You? The man who has never taken more than a week of vacation?" Michael smiled, gently squeezing her hand. "People change, Jennifer, especially when they find reasons that are worth more than any business." He explained his idea. After the wedding, accompanying her to Napa Valley for 6 months. He would work remotely on the hotel group's strategic projects, while she definitively established the winery's management structure. Afterward, they would return together to Los Angeles for another 6 months, where she would supervise Gloria's kitchen and he would complete his medical treatment with his trusted team. "That way, neither of us will have to give up what's important," he concluded. "And we can build our life together, even if it's between two locations." Jennifer stopped, deeply moved by his proposal. "You would do that for me? Leave Los Angeles, your routine, your comfort zone?" Michael took her face in his hands, looking directly into her eyes. "Jennifer, you taught me that life isn't about clinging to comfortable certainties, but about daring to seek new horizons. You showed me that it's never too late to reinvent oneself, to discover new passions and purposes." He paused, his eyes bright with contained emotion. "Besides, I always wanted to know Napa Valley better, and the idea of tasting all those Cabernets directly at their source, what better excuse?" Jennifer laughed, recognizing in his joke Michael's capacity to lighten even the most intense moments. "You're incorrigible, and you're extraordinary," he responded, kissing her softly. "And together we're unstoppable." That night, as she watched Michael sleep peacefully beside her, Jennifer understood that the true choice had never been between two places or two lives. The true choice was between fear and courage, between settling for what was safe or risking for what was extraordinary. And she, who had once been dismissed in the rain with just a plastic bag in her hands, now embraced with confidence a future that, although uncertain in many aspects, promised to be as rich and complex as the wines that would soon carry her name on both sides of the state. 1 year later, the old house on the outskirts of Los Angeles that Michael had mentioned that afternoon in Santa Barbara had been transformed. The garden, previously neglected, now bloomed with aromatic herbs, fruit trees, and a small experimental vineyard where Jennifer cultivated vines brought from Napa Valley. The structure, restored while respecting its original character, combined Californian and Napa Valley elements, creating a space that perfectly reflected the life between two worlds that its inhabitants had chosen. It was a hot July afternoon, and the house buzzed with activity. Family and close friends, some arrived from Napa Valley, gathered to celebrate the first wedding anniversary of Jennifer and Michael, coinciding with the official presentation of the Encounter wine line, now available in select stores across the United States. Gloria, who had recently turned 81 and whose health remained surprisingly stable, presided over the gathering from her favorite armchair on the terrace. Beside her, Sarah and William, specially come from Napa Valley, shared anecdotes about Jennifer's adaptation to life in wine country. "She learned to ride a horse like a true rancher," commented William, provoking laughter among those present. "Although her accent when singing country songs remains unmistakably Angelino." In the kitchen, Jennifer and Elena prepared a feast that combined typical dishes from both regions, gourmet tacos alongside Napa Valley artisanal cheeses, farm-to-table specialties accompanied by a Santa Barbara-style grilled salmon, salted caramel desserts sharing the table with fresh berry pies. "Need any help?" Michael's voice interrupted her thoughts as she put the finishing touches on an heirloom tomato tart, a recipe she had learned from Eleanor during her last stay in Napa Valley. Jennifer smiled, wiping her hands on her apron. "I think we have everything under control. How's the tasting going?" "David is impressing everyone with his knowledge of Napa Valley terroirs," responded Michael, stealing an olive from the counter. "I think he's seriously considering my offer to open a Palms in San Francisco." The past year had brought significant changes for both. As they had planned, they divided their time between Los Angeles and Napa Valley, adapting their respective careers to this particular rhythm. Michael's health had improved notably, allowing him to reduce medication, although he maintained regular checkups. Gloria's kitchen, under the alternate direction of Jennifer and an associate chef, had earned its second Michelin star, while Martinez Vineyards began to gain recognition in international markets. Not everything had been easy. The first months had brought logistical challenges, cultural adaptations, moments of exhaustion, and some inevitable arguments. But each obstacle overcome had strengthened their bond, proving that the decision made was the right one for both. "There's something I wanted to show you before we serve the food," said Michael, taking her hand. "A little project I've been working on." He led her to a room at the back of the house, which until then had remained closed, with the excuse of being a storage space. When he opened the door, Jennifer was left breathless. The former storeroom had been transformed into a bright studio library, with shelves filled with cookbooks and enology texts from around the world. A double desk occupied the center, with two comfortable chairs facing each other. On the walls, framed photographs told the story of their two worlds: the Vance estate, where Jennifer had worked, the family inn in Pasadena, where Michael had grown up, Gloria's kitchen in full service, the Napa Valley vineyards at sunset. But what truly captured Jennifer's attention was an object placed in a place of honor: Sophia's old recipe book, open in a specially designed display case to preserve it. "I thought it deserved a place where we both could find inspiration," explained Michael. "A space that honors our origins while we plan our future." Jennifer toured the room, moved to tears. Every detail had been carefully considered, from the natural light entering through the large windows to the selection of photographs capturing significant moments of their lives. "It's perfect," she whispered, stopping in front of the displayed notebook. "The complete circle." Michael embraced her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder, as they both contemplated those yellowed pages that had connected their destinies across time. "There's something else," he added, pointing to an envelope placed next to the notebook. "Open it." Jennifer took the envelope with curiosity. Inside, she found official documents of a newly created foundation, Roots Foundation, whose main objective was to provide culinary and wine training to young people from disadvantaged backgrounds in both Los Angeles and Napa Valley. "The idea is to create an exchange program," explained Michael as she read. "Young people from LA will have the opportunity to learn in Napa Valley, while students from wine country can train in Los Angeles, a way to perpetuate what began with Rose and Sophia." Jennifer turned in his arms, deeply moved by the meaning of that gesture. "It's the most beautiful gift you could give me." "There's still more," he continued, with a special sparkle in his gaze. "I've been talking with the doctors, and they consider my condition sufficiently stabilized to expand our family if that's what we want." Jennifer held her breath. They had discussed the possibility of adopting, especially after meeting so many children in vulnerable situations through the winery's social programs. But the doctors had been cautious regarding the stress that parenthood could mean for Michael's heart. "Are you sure?" she asked, seeking confirmation in his eyes. "I've never been more sure of anything," he responded. Whether through adoption or exploring other options, I believe we're ready to take that step. Our home, although divided between two locations, has enough love to share." Jennifer embraced him tightly, too moved to speak. In that moment, all the doubts and fears she had once harbored about her decision to live between two worlds definitely vanished. They had found a balance that, far from limiting them, expanded their possibilities, enriched their lives, and now offered them the opportunity to create a family that would embody the values they both shared. The sound of laughter and conversations arrived from the terrace, reminding them that their guests were waiting. Jennifer separated slightly, discreetly drying a tear. "We should go back," she said with a radiant smile, "and announce the foundation to everyone." Michael nodded, but before leaving he took her face in his hands with infinite tenderness. "Do you know what I thought that rainy day, when I saw you for the first time under the rain, with your dignity intact despite the circumstances?" Jennifer shook her head, always surprised by the memories and reflections that Michael shared at the most unexpected moments. "I thought you were the most authentic woman I had ever seen, and that if something like destiny existed, it had just manifested itself at that precise moment." He kissed her softly, a kiss that contained all the path traveled and all that they still had to travel together. When they returned to the terrace, the sun was beginning to set, bathing the small experimental vineyard in a golden light that recalled the Napa Valley sunsets. Gloria, always observant, immediately noticed the special glow in her daughter's eyes and Michael's serene smile. "It's about time you returned," she commented with feigned impatience. "William is about to open the last bottle of Encounter for the toast." Jennifer took the glass they offered her, admiring the deep ruby color of the wine that represented so much for them. When all the guests had their glasses, Michael raised his in a toast. "To the roots that nourish us, the encounters that transform us, and the paths we choose to travel together." As glasses clinked and the wine, with its notes of ripe fruits and spices, revealed the complexity that only time and passion can create, Jennifer looked around her at the family she had formed, at the life she had built against all odds. At 53, the woman who had once been dismissed in the rain with just a plastic bag in her hands was now a recognized chef, wine entrepreneur, beloved wife, devoted daughter, and soon, perhaps, mother. An extraordinary journey that confirmed to her that it is never too late to reinvent oneself, to discover new passions, to find true love. And as the sun set definitively behind the hills, tinting the sky in reddish and golden tones, Jennifer silently raised her glass in a personal toast to all women who, like her, dared to believe that endings are just new beginnings in disguise, and that life, like the finest wine, reveals its true character when we risk uncorking the unexpected.